Anyways, so question was, how does being a woman in this industry sort of work for me?
Mhm.
The woman who is 74, who has been doing this for 50 years, essentially. Like she started doing landscaping and gardening when she
Mhm.
was 20, working for the city of Seattle.
Yep.
She's kind of a local legend. Beverly Ross. She tells me that a lot of old women and old men hire her and hire other women to work for them
Mhm.
because they live alone, and it's comforting, I guess, to see a young woman or just a woman in your yard rather than a bunch of dudes.
Yep.
I know that's like kind of sexist, but it's there's like psychology to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a client, he's an older gentleman and
Mhm.
he's only hired women to
Mhm.
work for him. So I don't know why, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, I guess.
Cool. And then, what do you like so much about polysticum ferns? Is there something
Oh,
like?
so yeah, so that would be the Polysticha minutum would be the
Mhm.
Pacific sword fern, or Western sword fern, and that is my favorite plant of all time. They are massive. They are such like a staple of the Pacific Northwest. They get these huge fronds up to like 4 feet in diameter. These plants can get, and it feels like as you're hiking and walking in the woods that you are in like a jungle. And I love like sitting in like a cluster of them and
Yep.
just kind of hanging out and like listening to the birds and like looking around. They're just so pretty. They're just on like that's I love ferns in general.
Mhm.
They are also really great when it comes to landscaping because they are so low maintenance.
Mhm.
They have these giant root structures that really anchor them into the ground, and that helps. One of the issues in Washington is slope stabilization, and when we plant ferns in these slopes, they're making these huge fibrous root structures that
Mhm.
just anchors it into place. um and I think there's just so many good things about them. They're evergreen, like it's great.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 plant, honestly.
Cool. And then, when did you start your business?
So July 2022 is when I
Mhm.
started. I wasn't licensed until July 2023. It
Mhm.
was kind of like a trial year to see if I could really kick things off.
Yeah.
I spent that first year running my business out of a 2003 Toyota Highlander. So if
Okay.
anybody ever has the audacity to tell me, "Oh, you're just lucky that you could start your own business because you had all this money." Nope. I started my business with electric tools and thrifted tools
Mhm.
and hand-me-downs and scraps and whatever I could find, and it just really put a lot of elbow grease into it, and that's how I started my business.
Yeah. And then, do you still have the Highlander now? Or are you using the red truck now, Clifford?
Yeah, I am. I am using my Chevy now. I
Mhm.
bought that in October. Game changing, honestly.
Yep.
The so one of the biggest things I hated about the Highlander is
Mhm.
loading up yard waste into the back because the seats go down. And then just like the car being full of spiders for weeks.
Yep.
Just driving down the street and realizing, oh, yeah, there's a spider. You're just hanging out right there, and he's slowly descending into my lap. And I'm a little bit afraid of spiders, ironically,
Yep.
and it's just like not cool. And
Mhm.
also like just dirty in general. But now that I do have an actual truck, it's awesome. It's
Mhm.
awesome.
And so you've basically been doing it for almost 2 years now, right? You're
Yeah.
coming up on two. What do you, if, like, let's say, um, in the next 5 years, you do everything right in whatever it is that you want to do, and you
Yeah.
do everything you say you're going to do, what does your business look like in 5 years? Like, what is your ideal?
So I am hoping to eventually hire employees.
Hmm.
And I for me, my business, ideally I would kind of like to sort of revolutionize the way that we look at gardening and
Hmm.
landscaping, in as much as working with nature instead of like I people use Roundup a lot and just
Hmm.
planting these invasive species that are actually having a huge impact
Yep.
on our environment. Like Heavenly Bamboo, for example. One of those guys, they just, the birds eat the berries and they poop and it just goes on forever. And that's one of the one example, right? And like encourage, I want to in 5 years from now have like a franchise. That's
Mhm.
my goal. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. And but I'm just like a company who focuses on like ecological mindfulness and
Mhm.
education. I think education is super important. A lot of people are making gardening mistakes
Mhm.
because they just don't have either the resources or the motivation to learn it. And instead of just hiring someone who can do the job, but not only
Mhm.
do the job, but do it well, do it right, and do it with this mindfulness. Like that's a big one for me. Mindfulness
Mhm.
of the fact that our yards are just an extension of our local ecosystems and
Mhm.
that we, you know, we should be focusing on how to not only keep them pretty, keeping
Mhm.
the neighbors and the HOAs happy, but also keeping the birds happy
Mhm.
and the squirrels and the butterflies and the bees and our
Mhm.
children and our pets and ourselves happy because
Yeah.
that nature is like the best antidepressant. So
Yeah.
if I could not only just garden, but also encourage people to garden in a way that is awesome.
Mhm.
That's my goal in 5 years is to have people all over with the same goal working
Mhm.
with under the name Admired Earth. Or if not, just have like, I don't know, 5 people to kind of go around because I have too much work. Sometimes I have to say no because it's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hey, I love that your company has such like it just has a wholesome, great mission statement that's unlike
Thanks.
most companies. Um,
Yeah.
and I know you obviously grew up a lot. You said you grew up, outside, loving nature. What
Yeah.
is it? What is it mainly that made you want to make this the mission of your company and what you want to do? Why is it?
Okay. It might seem simple and silly to some people, but English ivy and Himalayan blackberry.
Mm.
Now, those are things that when people hear English ivy, they think, oh, yeah, it's just like a decorative plant. But in reality, Hedera helix is the worst.
Hmm.
It is the worst. It chokes our forests,
Yeah.
and you can't stop it. Like, how do you stop something that is so prevalent? It's so aggressive, it's so strong, and it's like makes me want to grab someone and shake them and be like, why
Yeah.
aren't we funding this?
Yeah.
Why isn't there dozens of people every day, hundreds of people out there cutting it away,
Hmm.
spraying it, and just restarting it? Because, like, I think invasive species in general is what really like motivated me to want to garden better.
Hmm.
And not only that, but also just like seeing people mess up so hard and like pruning a tree by topping it and just like chopping off those limbs when the internodal cuts is what it's called. When you have like a large chunk of tree and you just cut it off, that's called an internodal cut.
Hmm.
And it puts the tree into shock and it grows water sprouts, and those are those little fingers that you see. And after that, you can't repair the tree. Might as
Hmm.
well cut the whole damn thing down. And if seeing that is like makes me just be like, okay, all it takes is motivation. All it
Hmm.
takes is word of mouth, an idea in someone's head
Hmm.
as to, hey, do it right. Just do it right. And that's kind of my thing on my website. There's a little on the front page it says about the cause. And the big thing on there is just like doing it right.
Hmm.
And I guess that's the buzzword, doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And honestly, I think I speak for anyone who has tried removing English ivy. We wholeheartedly agree with you. That stuff is miserable. My back
Yeah.
hurts just thinking of trying to pull
Yes.
it. Yeah.
And it's not even just like trying to pull it, but also just here, I don't know how bad it is where you are, but it is actually a national problem, pretty much national. It's not in like some
Yes.
of like the Central America. Like I never it's not a thing in Utah. I've lived in
Yeah.
Utah for a couple years.
We're in
But
Mass, so we have it everywhere too.
yeah, and it was brought over and sold as a efficient, fast-growing ground cover, which
Mhm.
indeed that's what it is. but it's actually there's nothing that lives here that eats it and
Mm-hmm.
that controls it because it's from Central Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And deer who eat it, it clogs their stomachs and then they die.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ivy just comes back. No remorse. The birds eat the seeds, they poop them out, and it spreads. Same thing with Himalayan blackberry, which is a huge problem here.
Mm-hmm.
Like huge problem here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, invasives in general, you know, there's so many,
Yeah.
like butterfly bush, and I could
Yeah.
go into it.
Well, hey, I saw that you also make music, and I saw. Did you release a CD?
No, I didn't release a CD. I
Okay.
did the art for a local band called the Cacophonics with an
Gotcha.
X. Um, and I just, yeah, I met them and kind of connected with
Mm-hmm.
them, and their music is just really good. It's ska, so it's like piano, drums, and brass, and
Mm-hmm.
it's good. And they're good. They're great people. And I just was like, hey, can I do some art for you? And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah. And so I did um the cover art, and it's also on a CD. I do
Oh,
play guitar casually, but
yep.
it's not like my passion.
And you are, but you do write some songs, right? Aren't you working on something right
I
now?
guess, yeah. It's not like lyrical. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's a better habit than staring at my phone.
Yes,
So
definitely.
crocheting is another one I've been picking back up again. Crocheting, anything that gets you off your phone, I think we should encourage. Gardening, instrument, a craft with your hands, whether it's like
Mm-hmm.
pottery or drawing or painting, or that's something that everyone should do.
Yeah. So, Tierra, what do you think are going to be your biggest? I know we talked about like where you want the business to be in 5 years, but what do you think are going to be the biggest hurdles over the next 5 years to achieve that?
Um, so far it's been finding someone who can work for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now paying someone a fair wage wouldn't be a problem for me, but right
Mm-hmm.
now, when I've been trying to find an employee, it has been someone who shows up, someone who's as passionate as me, and someone who's willing to learn. And that is actually apparently not as easy when you have such a niche business like I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had people work for me and they just they weren't thoughtful, I guess. Hired someone, and 20-year-old guy broke my brand new loppers, and then I just kind of was like, I just bought those, bro. I just bought those
Yeah.
not cheap,
Yeah.
right? And it's just kind of like that's a problem, or hiring someone who's like willing to work also like part-time, but
Mm-hmm.
who's also willing to be trained in like a specialty, because
Mm-hmm.
I've taken classes with a organization called Plant Amnesty to be a master pruner. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not just out there just chopping stuff, right? That's like a no-no in my business.
Yeah.
Finding someone who is like willing to do it correctly and take the time to do it correctly, that's been hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just trying to settle with a business infrastructure that is suitable for employees has been a bit different for me because of I run my business very relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a CRM, I have Jobber,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I only use it for payments, and that's pretty much it. And payments
Mm-hmm.
and contact list, because my clients are old. They don't want to text through an app. They just want to text me or email me
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, right? And so trying to figure out how to work with that and evolve it from what it is now into something that could be later bigger, that's been a problem, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because everything else has just been breezy.
Yeah.
Like finding work has been easy. You would not believe how it. I have not. I haven't paid a cent in advertising. I haven't paid a cent in advertising. I post on Nextdoor
Yep.
in their free section, and that's how I get all my clients. I
Yep.
have more than I need, and then word of mouth. I put my business cards. Well, I do
Mm-hmm.
have business cards, but I don't feel like that counts because I put them in cafes and
Mm-hmm.
uh, stores, and I give like 10 out to every customer. I say, here, give these to your neighbors, give them to your friends,
Yep.
and they do. I don't even. I did canvassing once. I put up flyers once. I put up 100. I got one customer back just to see if
Yep.
that 1% thing was real. I guess it is.
Yep.
And I don't know. Just finding someone who's worth a damn to work for me, that's the hardest
Yeah.
thing.
So is that going to be your main focus this upcoming
It,
year?
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that developing infrastructure in to have an employee, and I also want to get an employee handbook drafted and
Mhm.
written out so that I can have like a little booklet of requirements, blah blah blah, rights and all of that, because I really believe in making sure like when you work for someone, you should know what's up, you should know what the
Mhm.
laws are. Um and finding someone who's honest. I have been looking for an employee because we would like to start our family, and
Mhm.
as a woman, I have to take a break. You
Yeah.
know, if you're a dude and your wife gets pregnant, it's just like, oh, la di da di da, she's
Yeah.
pregnant. But me, I have to stop what I'm doing at some point.
Mhm.
And I need to have someone to jump in and replace me for
Mhm.
my client's sake, because I'm
Yep.
never going to leave him hanging.
Mhm.
I can't do that. People, I have told them that, and I had this one client. I was like, "Yeah, so we're thinking of starting a family soon." And she looks me dead in the face. She says, "Yikes!" And I was like, "Why?" "Oh, because that means you can't work for us anymore." And I was like, don't worry, I have a plan. I'll
Yeah.
get it figured out first. You're
Uh,
not going to be left with an unkempt yard."
that's funny. Cool. And then, so what is your plan then for finding that right worker this year? Have you started? What are some of your ideas? Do you have a plan? Like, what's the goal to get through this hurdle?
Yeah, so networking is something I think that business owners should focus on. And that is something that I'm lucky enough to have, is a
Mhm.
decent network of people who I just not only know but also in the community.
Mhm.
And it would be kind of like recruiting people to find to like help me find someone.
Mhm.
Um just by like being like, "Hey, friend, I'm looking for an employee. Do you know any young person or older person who is capable and willing and wants to learn, who even has experience even?" And I have already started doing that. um I could post in Facebook groups, and I could put ads in, like I said, local cafes. I'm pretty community oriented.
Mhm.
Uh we we do live in I live in an area that is pretty good at that. So like when it comes to community services and organizations, like they're
Mhm.
all really like interconnected. So I could just be like, "Hey, Marcia, do you know anyone?" Or be like, "What's up, Betty? You got a guy or a girl who wants help, or who
Yeah.
wants to help me, rather, either one." It's
Yep.
like, I can't do both.
Yeah.
Um, that's my goal. In it so far, I haven't tried as much yet because it's still like really early in the season, and which is probably what I should probably start actually. I've been busy with taxes, with thinking about taxes
Yep.
and how to not pay as much. But every business owner feels that.
Yeah. Oh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, cool. Well, hey, that was all the questions I had for you, Tierra. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. So how did you do it? How did you Mr. drops out of college and does big things?
Well, if you saw my paycheck, you wouldn't think I was doing big things.
Yeah. Well,
uh,
you got the brand that makes it appear as big things, but that's I think what is important
yeah.
is.
But to your question, I mean, I always loved books. I read books my whole life. I was really into fiction books growing up. I actually remember my father, he bought me a Nook, and I was probably 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. And he put his card on it so I could like buy books, obviously. And this is back when Nooks, there weren't games on it. This is black and white Nook.
Yeah.
And I was going through a book every day and a half. So I would average around 4 to 5 books a week. And my father didn't know. So one day he came to me because he checked his bank statement. He's like,
Oh.
he was it was funny. He came to me. He was obviously angry. He's like, he's like, Brandon, it's $120 charges on your
Yeah.
Nook from the past like 2 months. It's like, are you reading books? and
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, Dad. No. I'm reading books. He's like, you bought how many books? I'm like, well, I go through like one every other day. And he's like, and I could see he was like so angry. He's like, okay, but only books. and,
Yeah.
and luckily, I had a supportive father, so I was a big reader. And when I turned about 13, I got really into business, self help, finance, all that stuff really interested me. So I'd sit in the back of my middle school class with my nook reading like Warren Buffett beating the streets, how to win friends and influence people. I just found it fascinating,
Yeah.
young me. And then I went to college, got a little disillusioned with it. I I always thought I'd go work in finance or go work at some big company. I'm from the suburbs of Boston, so as you know, it's like a lot of old money, big companies in
Yeah.
this area. So I thought that that was my path. I'll go work in, Bain Capital or something. And actually, what really started my disillusionment was I actually had a friend in college who his father worked at Bain Capital. And his father, nice guy, albeit, but I obviously was interested in learning about this because that was my planned path. And his son told me, oh, yeah, it's, first 10 years, you got to do like 60, 80 hours a week. But after 10 years, you'll get this like big position. You'll make a ton of money. And then you work like 40 hours a week and it's easy. Meanwhile, his dad's like 50, 60 on his third marriage and still not seeing his son.
Sounds horrible.
He used to Venmo his son $500 every Friday, and his son would be asking for more money by Saturday night. And I just remember I was like, if I'm going to put in 60, 80 hours of work to make that much money in 10 years and possibly ruin my family, why don't I just do it for myself?
Yeah.
And landscaping, I kind of just stumbled upon during COVID. COVID hit. I lost my job at the time. I was pretty disillusioned with college. Didn't really want
As
to do it.
I did too.
Yeah. So me and my buddy Scott, he'd done landscaping his whole life for like his family. I'd mowed the lawn a couple times, but it was a cash business and everything was shut down. So I print out some flyers on my computer, cut them all out by hand, put them in mailboxes around the neighborhood, and off to the races. Here we are.
Yeah, there you go. And I think what I see is someone who had the skills as someone like doing the work, and then like as the landscaper, someone who already kind of knew like the grounds and like the how to put their feelers out, and then someone who has a lot of knowledge already on
Hmm.
business management and finance. And I think that because you guys had this sort of like ability to match each other and
Hmm.
in what you needed from each other, that makes sense. That you were able to become successful with your different strengths. So that
Yes.
is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
see
I'm
how that, yeah,
blessed.
don't,
I'm blessed with my partnership with Scott. Not only because of our different knowledges, because the way I look is, at the end of the day, I could find someone else that has the knowledge he has, and he could find someone else that has the knowledge I have. The reason I'm blessed is Scott and I share core values, which is we believe in hard work,
yes.
honesty, and we are
Yeah.
willing to give it our all. Scott's the kind of guy like just like me. We'll both sit here till midnight. It doesn't matter. Like we will work all day. Everything will be pushed to the side because we have a goal in mind and nothing is going to get in the way. And that's why I'm really blessed. And that's why, I always say to people like you don't need to know everything. Like to this day, I'll help with the mechanical stuff, but the thing is, it's like, why bother putting me in there? If it's going to take Scott an hour and it'll take me two, just let him do it.
Yeah.
He enjoys it more anyways. And
There
like,
you
same
go.
thing. He doesn't want to come in here and handle all the office stuff and I'll be better at it anyways. So um, that's why I say I'm blessed is it's just so hard to find the core values. Like you said, with trying to find a worker,
Yes.
it's just a really good core value match.
I like that. Like saying core values is definitely a good like little hat to put on that
Hmm.
concept. I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, core values. honesty, integrity, and just like hard work is really what I believe to be like the fundamental groundwork to anybody who wants to have a successful business
Mhm,
in any trade or profession,
mhm,
where you find failure is dishonesty can only take you so far, is what I've come to notice, is that people pay me to fix other people's messes because your dishonesty eventually gets around, and then, oh, don't hire this person because they will break your stuff and they won't tell you,
yeah,
or don't hire this guy because he overcharges and does half the job and leaves. And
yeah,
you know, so having those core values, establishing like what matters to you in your business, and being moral about it, I think that's what makes people successful or unsuccessful.
mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. We actually, I haven't really mentioned this publicly yet, but we have completely changed our hiring. Um, so our hiring has completely come down to core values. We there's like one question about have you done labor? We don't even go into it. If you are physically capable of doing this work, all the whole interview process now is about what are your values, and we even have them listed right at the top of every interview page because our we have different core values for different positions in our company. So if you are a team member, just frontline team member, you have core
Hmm.
values. Crew leads, which is what team members can be promoted to, they have different core values. They're still expected to do the team member core values. Like you don't just get to move up and have different values, but you also have to have these values to move up. And
Yeah.
it's written on our board so they know. And then same goes for general management or any kind of management. We've written out the values, and that's become a really big thing for us this year. Where we tell the team, look, we're here are the numbers. We're very good with keeping numbers and tracking your KPIs. Here's what we expect from you KPI wise, but here is the non-measurables we also expect from you. And we probably had to fire 30 people this year. Um,
Wow.
and yeah,
What percentage of your staff is that?
I, th- oh no, we didn't fire 30. Sorry. I just saw, I was sending out the W-2s. So I think we had 39 team members this year. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we did let go of about 30. Not all of them were like fired. Like some of them were, hey, this just isn't a good fit for you. Some of them is, they couldn't hit the KPIs that we have. And then, I'd say the majority though is, core values. And if you ever talk to Scott and ask him like how do those firing conversations go, every single time it was just him saying like, look, like you broke this core value of the company, we have to let you go. uh,
Yeah.
Honesty, professionalism, these were our core values last year. It was honesty, professionalism, communication, and what was our other one? We just switched. This is why I can't remember our core values. But yeah, like every conversation, that's what it came down to. It was just like you broke the core value. And that's the big issue. I don't care if you've ever mowed a lawn before. I don't care, how much experience you have. All I care about is like, are your values aligned with our company? Because if not, it's just not going to work.
I think it's a lot easier to teach someone to push a mower than it is to teach someone not to lie. Because
Yeah.
once they're an adult, they're at
Yeah.
that point, they're kind of like, you know, no, yeah, that is a good. I guess I could see that that is a good business model, is having your values up front. That
Hmm.
and that seems to work for you guys, as far as as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Any other questions for me?
My gosh, I'm sure I do. You're really interesting to me. I kind of watch you from afar. I watch your YouTube videos and stuff, and it was really um kind of interesting to see how just there's so many different kinds of landscaping companies and so many different kind of people who are all involved in it. It's been cool, I guess, watching. I don't know if I have any other questions though, but I just wanted
Uh,
to say that I think you are neat.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad we're unique.
Yeah, I also really like the light blue. I think I said that before.
Oh, thank you.
Um, Hopefully one day I will see a light blue truck that says simply on it driving around our streets.
I know one.
Because
Hopefully one day.
one day I just saw an Augusta, one of those yellow trucks for the
Yep.
first time in my neighborhood, and I was like, "What are you doing here?"
Oh, no way. Are you guys? Are you near Bellingham?
No, no, that's the thing. I'm down towards like SeaTac and like Burien area.
Oh, okay.
So like
Hmm.
no one knows what it is. Basically 20 minutes south of
Yep.
Seattle.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I was like, what the heck? Why are you here? I've never seen you before. I thought
I
that was
know.
a like a Midwest Southeast thing.
I'm waiting for the day I see one in our area. There's none in Mass yet. There's none in Mass. Oh, actually, no. Sorry. They're one of their first franchisees is in Sandwich, Mass, but he's down on Cape Cod. Great guy. I've chatted with him a couple times now, but none in our area yet. So I'm waiting for the day.
Now it's time to get your blue across the country, man.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
the thing. Cool. Well, hey,
I
Tiara. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say thanks for interviewing me. I thought that was really cool when you're like, hey, who wants to get interviewed? And I was like, hey, sure, that sounds fun.
Yeah,
I love
thanks.
that. I love getting to communicate with other professionals in the field. If people want to contact me for questions, you could put the link to my website or my
Oh, yeah.
YouTube
Mhm.
in the description, and then they can just like email me or message me directly, and then I'm totally cool with answering questions like, how do I start my own women-owned holistic gardening business? And I'll be like, you do it like that.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put all your links in there, and then also I'll link the Discord, so if anyone wants to even reach out to you there as well.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be fun. We need some more action in there. It's been a little rusty lately.
All right, cool, Tiara.
Hell
Well,
yeah,
hey,
Brandon. Thank you.
I hope you have a great night. Thanks for your time, and I'll chat soon.
You too.